Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of Truth Talk with Wendi. Today, we have a couple different guests that we are bringing on. The first is my friend Kim Westfall, the founder of Uncaged, which is an anti-sex trafficking and human trafficking ministry. We are so excited to have her. And Kim is an entrepreneur and leader with nearly 30 years of experience leading and scaling successful for-profit and non-profit organizations. From 2006 to 2016, she served as the Executive Vice President of Client Services and Consulting for Westfall Gold, which is a major donor fundraising consultancy that's helped leading faith-based organizations raise more than $1 billion, yes, I said billion with a B, dollars to fuel transformation worldwide. Kim also served as U.S. Executive Director of the Watoto Child Care Ministries, which is an organization that provides holistic care to vulnerable women and children in purpose-built village settings across Africa. In 2018, after being haunted by a vision of children in cages, Kim launched Uncaged, an anti-human trafficking nonprofit that exists to unlock the transformation of girls and young women rescued from the global sex trade. Uncaged is currently launching its first ever sanctuary village in Romania, where survivors will live in peace and safety with access to trauma-informed therapies, spiritual care, medical attention, education, and vocational training. Uncaged is poised to make a significant contribution to the war on human trafficking by creating a holistic, globally scalable framework to bring healing and restoration to those trapped in trafficking. I am so excited to welcome my friend, Kim Westfall. Hey, Kim, how are you?
Doing great. How about you?
I'm great. I am so glad we are finally here. This has been a long time coming, hasn't it?
Sure has. Great to see you.
I know. It's good to see you too. If we had more time, which would take probably hours, I would tell the whole world the crazy God story of how we got together and how my friend that was at the Maui airport found you and had no idea that you knew my brother, and I had no idea, and how just the whole thing happened, and how similar our stories are, and how unbelievably similar our interests in ministry are. And so here we are talking about a subject that I know is near and dear to both of our hearts. And, but for the grace of God, I would be coming to live in your home one day, So God is just a good God, and I'm so glad that He brought you to me. I just can't even. Yeah,
goosebumps and tears.
I know. I know.
It's strange, but so wonderful.
I know. I think about how good He is, and how just the smallest little details. He is so involved in our life, and just how exciting it is that we are finally here at this moment. So I want to tell people a little bit, or I want you to tell people a little bit, how in the world did you get involved in the anti-human trafficking effort?
It's a great story. Talk about weird things that God does, and have to really pay attention when those strange things start happening.
You do.
Things are coming, good things to follow. So I'm a pastor's kid, I'm a missionary's kid, and definitely raised with the perception that we're here on the planet to do more than just make money and widgets, right? We have a purpose. And I'll try to condense the story a little bit, but got my start with nonprofit work. Back in my early 30s, I worked with a beautiful organization called Watoto Child Care Ministries. I'm telling you that because it so informs what we're doing with Uncaged today. But we basically cared for about 3,000 Ugandan orphans, and the format was incredible. It wasn't an institutional format. It was a family format. So we would rescue the most desperate children. Sometimes we'd even find them on garbage dumps with their hands and feet tied behind their backs, left as human refuse. We'd pick them up, we'd dust them off, and we'd place them in homes, in families. One house mother and 8 adopted children. We would build them a home, build 8 homes in a circle, then we'd drop those circles of homes into what we called a children's village. Just a beautiful setting. We'd drop in a school, a medical center, a church, a community center, and surround the whole thing with sustainable farming. And we would see these kids go from completely dead in the eyes, malnourished, and just completely depressed, to loving life, learning, loving, jumping. And, I am now getting Facebook requests from some of those kids saying,
Wow.
Auntie, remember me? I now am a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm a nurse, I have a family of my own. And back then we used to say, what an incredible model. This would work anywhere in the world. So fast forward, I moved on, met and married my husband, Bob, back in 2007, and helped him build a company that serves Christian and faith-based and non-faith-based nonprofits, helps them tell their story and raise funds. And just had an incredible opportunity to sort of look under the hood of hundreds of nonprofit organizations. And we saw the good, the bad, the ugly, the really ugly. We figured out how to do it, how not to do it. So just loads of experience. During that 10-year period with his company, I had a series of health issues. I had 3 back surgeries in 3 years. It wasn't fun. It was about a 5-year period. And I managed to kind of work throughout those surgeries. But at the end of it, came out just completely exhausted. Had a little bit of it wasn't a breakdown, but it was just like I came to the end of myself. My brain wouldn't work anymore, and had to walk away from the company, which was really hard. So I thought, well, I'll retire. I'll sit on the dock and drink great wine for the rest of my life. That'll be fine.
Right. Sounds great, actually.
Yeah. It did for 6 months anyways. And then I thought, oh my gosh, I'm not done yet. God is not done with me yet. And I started praying a very simple prayer. The prayer was, God, give me something great to do for you. And I had prayed that prayer at one other point in my life, and that was when Watoto, the organization in Uganda, was dropped into my life. And so I thought, well, I'll try it again. So I prayed for about 3 months. And this is where the story gets really strange, Wendi. I know you'll be okay with it, but I'm just warning your listeners, it gets a little wild. So I was at home in Georgia one day out doing errands. I had a long laundry list of errands to do that day. And I'm trucking down the road thinking I'm going to accomplish all those in one foul swoop. And even after growing up in the church, I've been in the church for 53 years. I'm not one of those people that would ever have heard the voice of God. But this is as close as I've gotten. I had this little prompt in my spirit, and it said something really strange to me. He said, Kim, you should go get a massage today. And
Amen. Amen.
Well, I thought, that's ridiculous. I have this long list of errands to do, and my back doesn't hurt for once, so delete.
Oh, wow.
And I went on my way. And 5 minutes later, it hit me again. Kim, you should go get a massage today. So I said, okay, Lord, it's not the worst idea. I'll take you up on it. I called my little friend Alina over at the local day spa. I went there on occasion. We knew each other, not well, but kind of a kindred spirit connection. She knew I was a believer. I knew she was a believer. So I called her and I said, hey, Alina, it's Kim Westfall. As soon as I said that, she goes, Kim, I cannot believe you're calling me. I've literally been praying and hoping that you would come in today. I said, okay, well, do you have a last minute appointment for me? She said, sure do. Can you be here in an hour? I said, yep. So I pop in, I walk in, and she, as soon as she sees me, she just jumps up from behind the desk and goes, I literally cannot believe you're here. I've been thinking of you and praying that you would come in, and here you are. And I said, yep, here I am for my massage. And she said, have I ever told you about my friend Karen Rose from Ohio? I said, no, you haven't. I don't know why you would. She said, well, she's this really neat lady that has the ability to speak into people's lives, and she's here today. Do you want to talk to her? Wow. And honestly, Wendi, I know you'll understand this. Mm-hmm. In my mind, I was going, hell no, this is too weird.
Right.
But out of my mouth came, sure. So she walks me back to this dear little lady, and I sit down in front of her. I'm trying to make some small talk. She's not having any of it. She goes right into, I guess, what you'd call a prophetic thing.
Right.
She said, she started talking about things in my life that nobody knew. I knew exactly what she was talking about, situations and woundings and experiences. She had my attention. And then she said, Kim, you've always had a heart for the children. Remember I told you about Watoto? Well, Watoto translated into English means the children. So she really had my attention. I said, yes. She said, well, right now I see you standing in front of cages, and there's children in those cages, and you're opening the doors, and as they come out and pass by you, they're being healed. She said, I really sense this has to do with human trafficking and child slavery. And at that moment, I was like, oh my goodness, this is the answer to that prayer I've been praying.
Wow.
So I listened really, really carefully. She downloaded a lot of information to me that day that I carry with me today. And obviously got up, went in for my massage. As you can imagine, my mind was racing. And at the end, I just got up and I said, okay, God, if there's children in cages in this world, that's something I need to know about. And I commit to you right now to do a deep dive on that topic. Well, that week, something really strange started happening. The stories just started coming before my eyes. Walking through an airport, I look above a baggage carousel, there's a screen, and the ticker across the bottom, it just goes by, it says something about children in cages. I'm like, whoa. Later that week, I'm on a plane. I look over the shoulder of a guy beside me reading a newspaper. He's reading an article, something about children in cages. I turn on a movie, there's children in cages. I'm like, okay, God, I get it. It's a real thing. Now I commit to you to doing a deep dive on the topic of human trafficking and child slavery. I knew very little. So I started reading all the books and watching the documentaries and talking to the experts that would talk to me, and learned all the horrifying facts. You know, there's 48 million people enslaved in our world right now. 85% of them are women and children. The average age that somebody enters into human trafficking is just 13, and the average lifespan at that point is 7 years. I was mortified. I was horrified. And then to hear the common story from the experts that I spoke to, they said, Kim, we just got back from Guatemala or Southeast Asia. We rescued 20 kids, only could find housing for 10. The other 10 went right back into trafficking. I still get chills thinking about that statement. I'm like, we could do so much better. Yeah. And that's when that Watoto model began to bubble up in my mind. I thought, I wonder if that healing village concept would transfer to the human trafficking population. And it was like the moment I had that thought and started voicing it, talking to different people about it, experts from all over the country started to gather around us. Over 100 people sat around tables with us and defined and formed the infrastructure of our organization and of a model that we call the sanctuary model.
Wow.
So the sanctuary is just a place of peace and safety where a survivor has access to everything she needs to heal. It's at our core is trauma therapy and Christ. That's it. And she's going to experience everything from group therapy to individual therapy, medical attention, spiritual direction. And then we've added some fun things in like equine therapy and art therapy and music therapy. And the ultimate goal is to create a sustainable future for this survivor so that she can have a vocation and a job and provide for herself and her family. So that's how I got into it. Thanks for letting me fire hose you with my story. But,
No, it's great. And you know, when you're talking about it, of course, I've seen the pictures and the videos and everything, and I'm still trying to find an excuse to move in myself because it looks fabulous.
Well, you got to come over and just see it.
I know, and I definitely want to.
A literal heaven for some people that are in a literal hell right now.
Yeah, I cannot imagine. So tell me, what about why did you pick Romania? Like, why did you decide with everywhere on the planet where human trafficking is, why Romania? Why was that your target?
It's another weird God story. I didn't pick it. He did. So I had been going, we were holding these things called solution summits where we'd gather the experts and we'd talk about how to create this incredible program. And as you can imagine, it was a little overwhelming. One day I'm meeting with architects. I don't speak that language. The next day I'm with psychologists and traumatologists. I don't speak that language. The next day I called them the assassins. It was a bunch of FBI and CIA guys. I certainly don't speak that language. So we're in these meetings and I'm feeling rather overwhelmed. And at one point I just stood up and I said, you know what? I think it's time for a break. Let's take 20 minutes. We'll meet back here in 20 minutes. We were out in Southern California at the time. And I just did my favorite thing out there. I walked to the ocean, turned right, went to the end of the path. So I went and sat on the bench and was basically saying to God, God, you have got the wrong girl. I have no idea what they're talking about in there. I'm overwhelmed. I'm confused. And this is your opportunity to bail on me and find somebody that can actually do the job.
Right.
And I sat there waiting for that lightning bolt moment where he would let me off the hook, and it didn't happen. So I finally said to myself, well, Kim, time to put on your big girl panties and get back to that meeting, and we'll deal with this later.
Right.
So a couple weeks prior to these particular meetings, I had started praying and asking God, well, where do you want this sanctuary? I know that if I throw a dart at a world map, I've hit trafficking. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to figure out where you want this sanctuary?
Right.
I've been praying that daily. So I was on my way back to the meeting. I'm walking down this beautiful garden path, and all of a sudden I see a giant aloe leaf. It's probably 2 foot in length.
Wow.
And on it is carved a word. And I felt one of those prompts again. That's for you. That's what I felt in my spirit. And the word that was carved on that leaf is Romania. And at that point, I was feeling so overwhelmed, I didn't even realize that he was trying to tell me where he wanted the first sanctuary. Luckily, I had the smarts to snap a picture and I kind of just hid it in my heart, tucked it away, didn't say anything to anybody. Well, 2 days later, I went back into my meetings, got through my meetings, went home. 2 days later, I'm sitting at my dining room table checking email, and I get an email from a friend, and she says, Kim, I know what you're working on. And she was also in the anti-human trafficking space. And she said, for some reason, I feel so compelled to introduce you to a friend of mine. His name is Benny Lou. He runs an organization called World Teach in Romania. And that's when the sirens started going off in my mind. I was like, Romania, the leaf, oh my goodness. I looked at the picture, got up and said to my husband, have you ever heard of an organization called World Teach? And he looked at me kind of strange and explained that, yeah, that was the international arm of the organization where he got his start 35 years ago in fundraising. And I said, well, did you ever work with their people in Romania? He said, sure did. I trained them all. I said, did you ever know a guy named Benny Lou? Because Benny, he's the rock star of World Teach. What is going on, Kim? I explained. He said, you've got to get Benny on the phone. So a couple days later, I called Benny and I start talking with him about the sanctuary model. He starts telling me that he has rescued over 750 people out of trafficking since 2004, and that they've had the exact same vision for a sanctuary. They called theirs the Butterfly Center. We were calling ours the Sanctuary, so we put those together, and our first one in Romania is called the Butterfly Sanctuary.
Wow.
So then we get there and we find out, guess what? 78% of the survivors found in Europe are Romanian. They're the most trafficked population in all of Europe. So God has directed us to a hotspot, a hub, and later led us to a piece of property, 237 acres, with beautiful little cabins already built on it, outbuildings for our programmatic elements, and even came with 12 miniature ponies for our equine therapy program.
Oh my goodness.
It's paradise. It's incredible.
It looks amazing. It looks absolutely amazing. So have you had any... Because I know the whole COVID thing kind of put a dent in everybody traveling pretty much to anywhere internationally. So do you have any survivor stories you can share with us?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, since now we're over 800 rescued since Benny started back in 2004, and then we've continued his work. Right now we have 75 survivors tucked away throughout Europe waiting to come home. This COVID mess has delayed all that, but we've got 75 tucked away in various safe homes. We're providing for them medically and legally and working on getting them back just as soon as the COVID travel restrictions lift. But yeah, we've got plenty of stories. I think about our first little girl that we rescued. We call her Snowy. And she was 12 years old when we found her. She had, she had been trafficked for about 2 years, basically sold by her mother for a bottle of wine, and found in, another country. We managed to get her home to her home country, and she's healing well. It's incredible. The thing that really strikes me with this is the resilience factor.
Yeah.
This is a little girl that came to us infested with disease and lice and just a mess, totally broken. I mean, her eyes were completely dead. But you know what? We placed her with a loving family and gave her introduction to trauma-informed therapies. And 2 years later, she is acing it in school, like top-notch grades, and just was awarded top pianist in her age category for the entire country.
Wow.
So how
Wow.
about future and hope? That's the stuff I like to talk about, is the future and the hope for these survivors. We've got women that
Man.
have started businesses, had families. They rebound in ways that we can't even imagine. I think because of what they've been through, they're actually kind of like superheroes or superhumans. Their capacity
Seriously.
is unbelievable.
Well, I know just, of course, my story pales in comparison to something like that. But I know that when you are put through something so traumatic at such a young age and God walks with you through it and then he brings you out on the other side, it's because he has very big things for you to do with that. So,
You would know. You would know.
yeah, so many
You're
of them,
like,
yeah, so many people don't make it out. And, that's why I'm so thankful that I'm one of the people that did. And I'm not going to be quiet because it kind of is like a slap in the face to the Lord, because he was there with me, even though I didn't think he was, I mean, you certainly don't think that, that God even sees you when you're in the middle of all of that, right? But
right.
when you're able to look back and really see what, his hand in all of it, I mean, he has such a purpose. And of course, they say, I think there's even a song, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? So,
Yes.
a lot of these girls, if they're just given a chance, they can be amazing contributions, not just to society, but, to other people that are like them that would never have any authority to even speak into their life if they don't know what they've been through, right? So those
Exactly.
people are just so valuable, which is why I believe the enemy tries to take them out so early, because he knows what their future, could look like, because there's been many that come before them. So I'm so excited to hear that your model and your system is working. So that, and I so am excited for when all this travel stuff gets removed, to go and actually personally get to experience, the sanctuary, and to meet some of these sweet girls. I'm so excited about that. How do people, because obviously Romania seems like forever away, but it's obviously everywhere. Like you said, you throw a dart and you'll hit a trafficking environment, right? So how do people, if they want to get involved in the fight, how do they do that?
The organizations that are fighting this fight, we, Uncaged, and others, we need your prayers, and so do the survivors. So I would just say, make that an intentional item in your prayer life, lifting up the survivors and those that are fighting for them. I think that's critical. The other thing is give. It is an expensive project that we've taken on here. You can rescue the girls, and that's kind of like quick and easy and not expensive. But to restore somebody's body, soul, mind, spirit, that's a 2-year process that costs a good bit of money.
Right.
So if you can invest in an organization that's making that difference, I mean, that means everything. And then also look for local organizations. Every city has them that are fighting this fight, and get involved with them. See how you can help, what you can donate, how you can volunteer your time. I think those are the best options for folks.
Absolutely. And then if somebody wanted to follow Uncaged's effort in this fight, how do they reach out to you, get in touch with you, follow you? What is all of that?
We would love that. Come to our website. It's Uncaged, Uncaged, uncaged.org. And through that, you can tap us, Facebook, Twitter, Insta, all that good stuff. We're everywhere, and we'd love to hear from you. You can register on our website to receive monthly updates, hear about the exciting stories and rescues that are occurring in Romania and all over Europe.
I love getting those updates. My friend who found you at the Maui airport, we talk to each other a lot when we get those, because it's such a unbelievable story. It's like we can't even believe what we're reading. And it was one of those newsletters that you sent out that prompted Teresa. We got to give a shout out to Teresa. Hi, Teresa. that prompted her to call me when my brother was here, and then that whole part of the God story was revealed. I mean, it's just crazy. But yeah, it's definitely those newsletters are so encouraging to see what you guys are actually, the difference that you guys are making. And I know from like the feeding programs that we've been involved with in Africa and stuff, anytime you have an overwhelming problem, it's very, very tempting to say, well, we're not even going to make a dent in this. It's just, it's too big, it's too much. But it's kind of like the saying of, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? And if everybody took on the attitude of, okay, well, we're not going to make any progress, yeah, then nothing ever gets done. But my point is, one person is worth the effort that I know that we put in, because it's life changing for them. So we are so excited about what you're doing, excited to partner with you, excited to hear more updates. And I would encourage anyone listening or viewing, you have got to go to the website, and you have got to hear and see everything going on in Uncaged world. It is crazy. And it's amazing all at the same time. So I would definitely give 2 thumbs up, and you guys need to go and check it out. So Kim, thank you so much for joining us today. We are so excited that you are here, and so thankful that we finally got to do this. So is there anything else is there anything else that anybody that you would like anybody to know before we sign off?
I would just say it is a big effort that we're tackling, but we're not doing it alone, and we couldn't do it without folks like you just coming around us and holding up our arms and encouraging us, and also without the Lord's help. I mean, that's the thing. It does feel big and overwhelming, but He is opening the doors, and we're just walking through them. That's what's making this thing possible.
Wow.
Thanks for hosting us today. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. All right, guys. Well, we want you to stay tuned, because next we have an actual potential victim that was targeted to be trafficked, and their story is coming right up. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Truth Talk. We are now bringing in 2 special guests, Nick Dadich and his daughter Samira. We are so excited to have you guys with us today. I know we've been going back and forth trying to get you guys on. Nick, I read your infamous Facebook post and literally just was devastated at just the thought of what might have gone through your head when your daughter called to tell you about this experience. So if some of you guys don't know, maybe after you hear this story, it will ring a little bell, because Nick posted something, in the last year about an experience that happened to his daughter. And we wanted to bring them on today to just tell you guys, especially the parents, but also the girls and the teenagers, and unfortunately even boys, because the target is always innocence. So I'm going to have Samira go ahead and tell me what exactly happened. I know you went to the mall, you were having a girls' day with your friend. It was the 2 of you guys at the mall. You thought you were just shopping, but it turned into a little bit more than that, didn't it?
Yeah, so my best friend Megan and I went to go surprise my sister at work. She works at the Cheesecake Factory, which is connected to the mall. So we were done with our shopping. We were in line for rolled ice cream, and we were waiting for it. I had walked over to look at the map of the mall. We were trying to find one more store before we left, and right when I got back, some girl just came out of nowhere. Like, she was probably like in her 40s. She looked very just like a typical mom you would see at the mall. And she was like, I'm just going to tuck your tag in. And like, by the time I kind of realized, like, that's kind of weird, I moved away, and she was gone, like nowhere to be seen. So I was just kind of a little bit taken off guard. And my friend Megan, she really should be a detective after this experience. She just kept looking at me, and she's like, are you okay? Are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. That was just really weird. So we keep walking. We get our rolled ice cream. We go to the store, and she keeps asking me. She's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Okay, well now you're making me nervous. Like I'm gonna throw up. Let's just okay." She goes, "Okay, let's go to the bathroom." I'm like, "Let's just go outside. Maybe some fresh air." And I don't want to go to the bathroom because if anything did happen, like this is the stories you hear. Like something happens, they make you sick to go to the bathroom, and then it's kind of goes down over there. So we went outside, stood there for a few minutes, and then like instantly I just dropped my bags and my ice cream, just like, and I just kind of shut off. It was like a flip switch. My knees just like, it's almost like my knees were locked and then they bent. I almost fell, and she didn't really know what to do. So she called my mom who was working, and my mom had then used her client's phone. So my mom does nails. She used her client's phone to call them all security. So we ended up going back inside. And at this point, like I wasn't verbal, I wasn't speaking. Megan was kind of dragging me around, and we get inside. Security ends up meeting us there. My mom got a hold of my sister, who lives in Columbus. So she came to the mall, and we kind of all just met up at one time. And while Megan and I were waiting for security and my sister, there was a guy kind of like lingering around us on the phone. And then he'd look at his phone, look at us. So she kept dragging me along, like moving probably 10 feet away, and he'd keep following us. So luckily that's when security showed up, and we went to the food court and just sat down. They got me water. And so they ended up just basic asking me a bunch of questions, and they ended up calling EMS, and they came in and took me out to their truck and checked all my vitals and all of that fun stuff. But they couldn't do like the blood test in the truck. So they asked if I wanted to go to the hospital, but I didn't, because I was with my sister and my friend. I'm like, you know what, let me just relax and call my mom, at least talk to some. By this time, it had probably been about 2 hours. I was finally talking a little bit more and realizing, oh my gosh, did that actually just happen? Because that's stuff you see like on the news. And I'm like, so, and then we ended up just leaving, and I had to call and do all like the legal stuff, like the police report. And then my dad had posted that on Facebook. And I would say about like a month after he posted it, I got a call when I was walking to class around like 9 a.m. from the Columbus PD. And they said that the attention was drawn to their, the case was drawn to their attention, and they wanted to investigate. So gave them more in-depth details, and they checked footage and whatnot. So, but I was told that they could have used, if you've ever seen like during COVID on the keypads at stores, they have those little finger covers. So when you touch the screen, the officer on the phone told me it could have been something like that, because he said, was she wearing a glove? And I said, not that, I mean, I barely saw her, but I feel like a glove would have been very noticeable for anybody in the mall. So he said it was probably one of those, because a lot of people use stuff like that that's clear and super like tight to your hands, so you can't see it. So yeah.
So just to be clear, whatever her intention was, because, nobody can really know what her intention was, because it didn't go down the way she probably wanted it to. But what they found was that there was something on either her finger or on the finger covering that she had on that ended up getting on the tag that she was trying to tuck back in to your shirt. Is that right?
Yeah, so that was their assumption, because I ended up going the next morning to get a blood test, and they said it would have already been out of my system. So, but he did tell me, it's like, I don't know the exact word, but it's almost like some kind of oil. And he said it would have touched my back, and once it touches the top of your skin, it goes into your bloodstream. So, and my friend Megan was saying, I don't even know if your tag was out. Like, I feel like I would have noticed, because I was just wearing a tank top. So it was a pretty decent sized tag for just a tank top, and I had a sweater on. And she goes, I didn't even notice it was out. So, but whatever it was like skin, it was on my skin, which is my assumption, because I guess I can't really like clarify that's exactly it, but that was what the officer was telling me.
And whatever was this substance that touched your skin is what created the debilitation for you when your knees buckled and you dropped your ice cream and all
Yeah.
of that. Okay.
Yeah.
So did they ever find on the surveillance tape, did they ever see the girl or the mom figure, whoever did that to you?
So I've never gotten a call since that day. But I'm really not sure, because I think she had her hood up, if I remember correctly. I mean, it was like a basic thing you would see in a movie. She was wearing all black hoodie. So I'm not sure what they ended up finding, but they pretty much just asked me more detail of exactly where I was at, what I was wearing, what my friend Megan was wearing, the best description I could give of her. So I haven't really looked into it much. I feel like I would have gotten a call. But at the same time, at this point, it's almost like out of my hands. Like the police were kind of handling it. So maybe they wouldn't have called me if they did find anything. So I haven't really checked in on that lately.
Wow. Well, as a mom, I can tell you that, first of all, I'm so glad it was nothing more than that. Obviously, any kind of stranger approaching my child and then having a reaction like that would be very disheartening and very concerning. I may not let you out of the house for a while, but
Yeah.
Nick, what, obviously like thousands of people have read your Facebook posts, but I mean, what in the world, I mean, how did that make you feel? Obviously at the time you were 18 when that happened, correct, Samira?
Yes.
Okay, so technically, she's a grown adult, but all parents know, they're always our babies. So at what point, I mean, I'm thinking, how do you ever let her, ever leave the house ever again? I would be so afraid of what else is out there. I mean, who thinks of something like that? I mean, you just wonder what goes through people's minds to have some substance. I mean, although they say there's so many kids today literally dying the very first time they take one pill just because of the teeny amount of fentanyl that's on the pill, that even touching it can do some horrible damage. So there's obviously all kinds of street drugs out there that you have no idea, and they're using those things to get to our children. So I mean, what did that make you feel like as a parent?
Well, I will say this, I was a little bit more calm considering the timeline, because she called me. Samira, what month was it when that happened?
It was, I believe it was like August 11th.
Okay, so there you go. So yeah, it was about 6 months ago. So, but the timeline, because she called me after everything was already under control. Like she called me after she'd already met with the mall security and the ambulance. So at that time I knew it was okay. And I just remember I was like, Samira, me and Samira's mom are divorced, so we live different houses, not too far apart. But then Samira was staying with her mom at that time. But I'm always the jealous dad. I'm like, call me, come spend time with me, whatever. So my first thing was, I said, why didn't you call me instantly? If I'm good at anything, it's being that protector. And she's like, Dad, I just know you're how emotional you are. You would have been in your car and doing 110 miles an hour to get down here to Columbus, because we're in town. We're about 2 hours away. And I'm like, absolutely, I would have.
Right.
So instantly, that's what I thought. But I was, at the same time, I was pretty calm, because when she told me what happened, I was more in shock of the story. And I don't want to sound like an uncaring dad, but I wasn't as concerned about her, like I said, just because of the timeline. Had she called me and said, Dad, hey, listen, this is where I'm at Easton Mall, and someone just put something on me and I'm feeling not, then it would have been a completely different Nick Dadich. Again, probably would have been doing 110 getting down there. Right. So I'd give her credit for that, and something else she had told me too. She said when she wasn't feeling good, and Megan was saying, let's go in the bathroom. And I remember Samira telling me that she told Megan, like, no, if that girl put something on me, they're probably waiting to beat us up in the bathroom. So, and your listeners really can't tell, but Samira is a above average size girl. She's not a skinny mini. She's healthy. She was an athlete. And the thing that I think of is, if it made her that weak, just that little bit, I mean, what if it's just your normal size, skinny little college girl? What does that do to them? How much more does it knock it out? Does it give, the predator time to, if it disorients you for 30 seconds, a minute or whatever. And then from there, who knows? I don't know if it's about the trafficking. It could just be about, we want to take your purse. We could have been, I liken that to people that, who key cars or send computer viruses. They never see the end result. They're just doing it to hurt people. And like I mentioned before we came on the show, I don't know what their intention was, but it wasn't noble by any stretch.
No. And in today's day and age, unfortunately, you just can't be too careful. Like my grandparents, like, never locked their doors, and, kids would play in the street until dark. And, it is such a different world that we live in. And so many of these people are coming up with creative ways to get to our kids. And so, my job as a mom, and your job obviously as a dad, is to protect our children. And I would personally rather err on the side of caution and be overly protective than I would to go, oh, well, it's probably, they probably weren't really trying to do anything bad to her. Obviously there was something that, they had ill intentions there. It's crazy to me, because I think about, if I had a tag sticking out, I would appreciate somebody tucking it in. And I've done the same thing to other people, other strangers. And I take it as an act of kindness, because you don't want anybody walking around with their tag sticking out. It's like somebody that, tucks their skirt into their pantyhose. You're like, oh, excuse me, I don't want to embarrass you, but you may want to go check that out. You're really just trying to be kind. And then they take this kind gesture that a normal thinking human being would just be trying to help someone, and they turn that into something very dangerous potentially, and it's really sad that we have to deal with stuff like that today, but you really just cannot be too careful.
No, and when everything you're saying is right, and it kind of, just when you hear good stories about and have faith in people and humankind, mankind, and then something like this happens, it makes you take a step back. And before Samira went to school, I own a bar and grill up here in Talmadge, Ohio. And I would talk to her before she went to school, and her sister when she went to school. Now, our sister is down in Columbus, so she's farther away. Samira's only about 10, 15 minutes away from me now, maybe 5 miles as the crow flies. But I told him, I said, listen, you're going to go to college. Don't assume anything. You go to the bathroom, you take your drink with you, or you finish it. You go in pairs. You never let someone buy you a drink. If they do, you're right next to them and you see the bartender make it and hand it to you. Don't take your eye off of it. When you're walking with friends, walk with your purses, carrying them on the inside of each other, and just things like that. Like, it just never occurred to me that something would go this far, awry, as far as there's something I didn't cover, just because, when you own a bar, you've seen quite a bit. You've probably seen more social, good things and ills than the common person working in a cubicle that are landlocked or, office locked. But so you think you can cover everything, and you just don't. So, and I told you before the show, and I really, before it became a popular song, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. My dad, that was his expression, he would, something bad happened. Be like, you all right? You okay? All right, then learn from it, So in this case, we're really lucky that we got a chance to learn from it. I haven't really talked to Samira much about it since then, but I know that every time she goes out, she's never alone. She's always with a friend. You can't expect to always be like that, but I think she would have to speak to it more directly than I can for her. But I think she's become a little more conscious about her surroundings, and is more aware that, hey, there's trouble lurking at every corner if you let it. So, like I said, I'm glad it happened to her now knowing that she's okay. because it's, it just chalks that up to a life experience. It makes her smarter with her decisions. And also, your college, every kid gets to college, they start drinking, and you don't know how you're going to react and how you're going to handle certain things if you're under an influence. So it's also helped her, because having a bar, she works for me after work. She'll have a drink with her friend or whatever, but she's always in control. She's always made good decisions with her, driving or her friends, or so. All of that combined has really helped to mold her, I think, to be safer than the average Jane. But hopefully with this podcast that you're putting out, people are just aware. It's not to scare anybody, because, really it's like chances of it happening to you are very slim, but the consequences, if it does, are a lot worse than the same odds of hitting the lottery,
Right.
Real lives we're dealing with in the ugliest part of our humanity possible.
Right. Absolutely. Well, Samira, is there, that's really good wisdom that your dad has said. You obviously, are going to try to be with a friend, whenever you're out and, watching, for what's happening in your immediate surroundings. Is there any other lesson that you've learned that you want to share with, your peer group, or even maybe, kids that are younger than you, but are just hanging out at the mall?
Yeah, so I know like a few things that I did before this experience that I never will do again. Always, we just have a local mall. If I have to make a return or I'm just looking for one thing, just a quick mall trip, I'll just go run in there and leave. Just by myself, like it's no big deal. It's like 20 minutes from my house. So that's a big thing, is going places by myself. I mean, granted, like I know where I can go by myself and where I take someone with me for sure. But then another thing is just don't let anybody touch you. It's very basic, but nobody should be close enough to you where they are able to put a hand on you for any reason. I mean, granted, it was a hard situation because she was literally gone in the blink of an eye. By the time I realized it happened, she was gone. But it's just being very like aware of your surroundings, which I thought I usually am, but stuff can sneak up on you like that. So for sure, just not going anywhere by yourself and knowing your surroundings, I think, is two very big takeaways for me. And even like being at school, I have a few classes that end at 5 when like in the winter time, sun starts to set. So even like just texting a friend and being like, hey, I'm getting back to my dorm at this time, just so, somebody's always expecting you. So if you don't show up or something happens, somebody knows.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely better to be safe than sorry. I totally just think that's just good common sense. So, well, we're so thankful that nothing worse happened to you. I hate that you did have to have that experience at all. And, but you've probably saved somebody's life that would not otherwise have even paid attention to that. But somebody has definitely, between you telling your own story and your dad sharing it with, hundreds of thousands of people all over Facebook, has definitely heard your story. And like your dad said, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. And hopefully you are definitely stronger because of this situation. And I know for me, one thing that I've definitely learned is, you can't put your faith or trust in any person. I trust God and God alone. And then I trust God with the people he brings into my life. And if he removes them, so be it. But you just, man by nature is depraved, and, our hearts are wicked, but some like just go further than we would ever have imagined. And so I'm grateful that attempt did not do anything more to you than it did, and that you're willing to share it with us. So thank both of y'all so much for coming on. And Nick, thank you so much for working with us to put all this together so that we could tell Samira's story. And is there anything either of you would like to add for the viewers before we go?
Nope. The only thing I would say is just teach your kids, don't assume they know it. Because even though they think they know everything at 18 going into college, there's probably some things that you could share with them. And even if you feel like it's belaboring it, do it. Don't have the regret of not doing it after something's happened.
That's right. Yeah. There's a lot of times I talk to my children and I know they don't want to hear it, but I can't not tell them in good conscience because I know the dangers that could be out there facing them, and it is, like you said, it's not to scare anybody. It's simply to make them aware. So that's great. Well, you guys, thank you so much. And we appreciate you guys coming on. For our audience, we just want to thank you for tuning in to another episode of Truth Talk, and we will see you next time.